Okay.
We can tell some assistant representative.
Yeah, I don't know.
The only apartments.
It's kind of.
The only apartments for rich people.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I thought that was.
It's okay there. For rich people.
I mean, when she was reading that, I was listening for it. It was like inclusive or equity. I mean, these things that were, and not one of those words surfaced. It was all equalized by job, income requirements to live. Wasn't written in a document that you're asking me to look. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes there's unspoken.
Because I'll ask Brian. Yes. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here today. I'll tell you a little bit about how we'll work the meeting, and that will use everybody's time wisely and help us move through this properly. The planning commissioners have received the staff reports for the cases today ahead of time, and they've had time to review the cases prior to the meeting. So to save time, we'll use the following procedures. For cases with staff recommendations to approve or to approve with conditions, I'll ask if anyone has notified the staff they would like to speak in opposition to the case or the conditions. If there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. For staff recommendations to deny, we'll start with the staff presentation. Following that, if there are no questions from the commission, I'll ask that the applicant be recognized. Applicant, you'll have 7 minutes to present your request. We'll help you keep up with that with a little time clock here so we can, again, just be respectful of everyone's time and get the work done today that we need to do. Opposition, you would come next. Opposition would have a total of 9 minutes. If there's multiple people that have something they'd like to say, first of all, I would encourage that it be different points, but also I may help move you along within that 9 minutes so everybody has an opportunity to share their thoughts. And, it's good that you've invested time in this, and we certainly want to be respectful of that. Then the applicant will have another 2 minutes to respond to anything opposition has done. During the meeting, if you would direct all comments to the commission, not to applicants or opponents or anything like that. Let's keep everything coming up here, and we'll take care of this. Once the commission takes action, if you have any questions, best thing to do is to contact the planning commission staff. And I would do it, the next 3 or 4 days within the meeting. If there's anything that you don't understand, that's important for you to do. For most of the requests, others than subdivisions, the planning commission makes a recommendation, and the final action on the request is taken by the local council or the Hamilton County Commission. And if that's the case with what you're here interested in today, in the back, there is a sheet of paper that has all the dates and times of the next meetings, or if we're talking about a deferral, we'll have, anyway, everything you need to know will be in the back on the table there that can help you leave here today knowing what your next step is to continue to be involved in the process. I will ask staff, Brian, do we have any deferrals or withdrawals?
Yes, under old business right now, case number 2021-0219 at 6340 Middle Valley Road. I believe the applicant wishes to defer. Next case under old business number 2, which I think we have a lot of folks here for in opposition, is case 2021-227 for 7303 Snow Hill Road. That's rezoned from A1 to C2. They wish to withdraw that case.
Okay. Commission, we'll start with case 0219. The applicant has requested a 30-day deferral. Is that correct?
They did not say, but I assume 30-day deferral.
Second.
Okay. We've had a first and a second. Will the commission? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Case number 0227. This is a withdrawal. This is on Snow Hill Road in Hamilton County.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Karen, with withdrawals, what is how long?
The applicant or someone could seek rezoning on the property with the property owner's permission. It would go through the same process. The sign would be posted and then it would be notified as our process calls for. So,
But as right now, this case has been withdrawn. There's no further action. But again, somebody in the future could come back in and apply.
Are there any time restraints on when they
There's
can?
not.
No.
Okay.
All righty. Let's move to case 0228. We're still in old business, the deferred cases.
Mr. Chair, if we could swing back to the subdivision plat and variance, the preliminary plat 1-year extension of
you.
approval.
Thank you. Okay, that's in the plats. Staff approval. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, this is just, this plat has expired. It has a 3-year window. So the applicant's asking to extend that approval for 1 year. Staff recommend approve of this request.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now back to old business. Case 0226. Brian?
Okay, this is case 2021-228. This was deferred last month. This is on Highway 58, a request to rezone from R2A to C2 for a farm store for selling of produce and other goods. Staff had a recommendation to deny, and I believe the applicant was here last month requesting to go ahead and go forward with C2. Planning Commission felt the C2 was probably appropriate based on what they heard, but to come back with conditions. So we have talked to the applicant, and we've come up with a list of, actually we proposed 15 conditions. Talking to the applicant, they still want to strike condition number 2 and 9 from the list you see on the screen. So staff recommended basically C5 prohibited uses such as adult-oriented establishments, bars, lounges, alcohol beverage sales or consumption on the premises, billboards, drive-through trade, gasoline pumps or car washes, liquor stores, manufacturing, on-premise signs, outdoor sales and display, playing of music or making announcements directly or through mechanical or electronic devices, theaters, skating rinks, dance halls, billiard rooms, those type uses, vehicle sales, warehousing, distribution centers, wholesaling, and then any use or structure not of a nature permitted under principal uses permitted shall be prohibited. So again, we had 15 conditions, but talking to the applicant, there's 2 of those they would like to strike from proposed conditions. One was, again, to allow alcohol sales or consumption on premise and to allow outdoor sales.
Okay, and your approval with conditions Are you accepting the striking? Of
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Applicants present? And this is your understanding as well? Okay, opposition? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Case 0233.
Okay, this request was deferred last month. The Planning Commission, I did not present this last month, so we'll go through the presentation today. This is a request for case 2021-233 to rezone from R1 residential zone to R3 residential zone with conditions. Proposed use is multifamily apartments. Total acres of this development is about 12.6 acres in size. They're proposing 220 units. That equals a density of 13.5 dwelling units per acre. The applicant did submit 3 conditions with this request. No mass grading or mass clearing above the 780 topo line as identified on Hamilton County GIS maps. Maximum building height shall be 4 stories. A maximum density shall be 14 dwelling units per acre. This property is located on Mountain Creek Road. So we've had some zoning history in this general area, but nothing specific to this piece of property. In 1998, directly across the Mountain Creek Road from this site, this was rezoned from R1 to R4 for an assisted living facility with 89 units. And in 2005, a little to the southeast, this property is rezoned to R1 with a special permit for a condominium development. And then to the south of this site in 2016, it's about 1,300 feet to the south. This property is rezoned from R1 to R3 with conditions for apartments. There were 7 conditions with that particular piece of property. And you see number 1, no mass grading or mass clearing above the 780-foot topo line as identified in GIS maps. Maximum building height shall be 4 stories. Maximum density is limited to 14 dwelling units. So those conditions are very similar to what the applicant requested with this application. Again, this property is located at 1145, 1149, and 1157 Mountain Creek Road. It's about 2,100 feet to the north or North Runyon Drive. Right now, it's a single-family dwelling. Adjacent land uses to the east are multifamily. Further east, you find single-family detached and attached dwelling units. To the southeast is a school. Directly to the south of this side is vacant property. And if you go further south, or it says multifamily, that's the apartment conditions I just read a few minutes ago. Again, that was rezoned in 2018. To the west of this site, it's vacant land as you go up the ridge. Then to the north of this site, there are single family and multifamily developments in this general vicinity. This is a view of the site looking from Mountain Creek Road. This is a view of the assisted living to the south of the site. This is a view looking north on Mountain Creek Road. The site's just to the left-hand side of that fire hydrant. This is a view west of the site, which is a single-family detached dwelling. This is a view east of the site, which is a single-family detached dwelling. There is no land use plan for this particular area, so it falls in the comp plan, which was adopted in 2016. And that comp plan relies on intensity levels, being the lowest from 1 to 5 being the highest. This has 2 intensity levels, level 1 and 2. Level 1 contains areas of sensitive environmental features such as steep slopes, and they have the least potential for development. Level 2 identifies areas as appropriate for low intensity development based on limited infrastructure. As you see on the steep slope maps, it does have slopes as you go up the ridge. It's highlighted in the red circle. So there are steep slopes in this property. Staff looked at this case and felt the request is compatible with adjacent land uses and development form as you have single family and multifamily nearby on Mountain Creek Road. So in order to protect the slopes to the west and maintain compatibility with adjacent development, staff recommends the applicant's proposed conditions, which are 3. So staff recommended to approve with the 3 following conditions. No mass grading or mass clearing above the 780 topo line. Maximum building height shall be 4 stories and density limited to 14 dwelling units per acre. Here's the topo of the site. The blue, which is hard to see on the screen, the blue is the site outlined for the development that's being rezoned. And the yellow dotted line, that's the 780 topo line. So basically we're saying no clearing or grading above that 780. So everything to the right of the yellow, that's where grading could occur. We also looked at building distance from the road to Mountain Creek Road, just for reference, and you see all the apartments and other developments north of this site. The location of the buildings from Mountain Creek Road are anywhere from 755 to 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet from Mountain Creek Road. If you look at the site in the red circle, their distance from the road, Mountain Creek Road, to the property line is 994 feet. So this would be in line with other developments along Mountain Creek Road in terms of where the actual building locations would be. So the applicant has some slides they'd like to talk about during their presentation, but again, staff recommended to approve with 3 conditions.
Okay. The applicant present?
Do I have the floor, Chair?
Commissioner, or actually Councilman Leffert.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is my mic on? Brian, would this project engage the city's steep slope
If it,
vegetation
if
component?
it develops or disturbs anything over 30%, 33%,
It's 30.
30%,
That was
it
what we
would,
settled on, 30.
it would, my understanding it would,
It would.
but I don't think they're, based on what I've been told by the developer, they're not disturbing anything above that.
They're not in this plan. And
Yes.
is that because of the 780?
Probably so. If you let me go back to this slide here. This slide here, everything in the red, really that's sort of the area in the 780. You can see on the slide everything to the right, those yellow. That's the proposed building locations. They're really not going into the 780 on the entire site. It's just this one little portion in the red. My understanding that red area will take some of that fill dirt and use that to fill in to the bottom.
Okay, my follow-up question is, we repeatedly at council see projects coming down through Mountain Creek that are creating a lot of community activity, a lot of concern, a lot of energy, if you will. I see some of those folks in the room that I'm very familiar with. Have you been asked as an RPA to do a land use plan for this area? And if not, what in the world do we need to do to get that going?
We, far as my understanding, we have not been asked by the community to do a land use plan. If Karen has, I don't know, but
That request can come from this body, it can come from the community, or it could come from the council rep.
you know, we are doing as our agency doing area plans. I'm not sure where this
I know.
falls into
Yeah.
that area plan schedule. Karen can probably answer better than I can.
Yeah.
And what I forget, we did receive opposition on this case, I guess last month. So I know there was a neighborhood meeting by the applicant sometime, maybe last week or the week before last. There was a neighborhood meeting.
Yeah.
So that's all I can answer. Karen can probably answer more to the land use plan.
I'm trying to be proactive in bringing awareness to the developments that are coming along and wanting to. And it just seems like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And here we are again. And we know what the community is going to say. We've seen
Right.
it on multiple cases. I'm wondering what do we have to do? Can we do it as a body? Can we say we need a land use plan for this area that
Yes,
we
you
can draw on?
We're your staff. Again, we have the county divided up into area plans or districts, if you will. Right now, we're working on area 10, 10 or 11 in your area.
You're in my district.
So you're in a
now.
hot
Appreciate
area
it.
right now. So, got to remember, we have these prioritized. And
We
Well, that
several years ago, we came to Planning Commission and Council and looked at the zoning activity and across those areas and trying to determine for that point of where are we getting the most activity and where would an updated plan answer the most questions based on zoning activity. And we did the area 12, area 3, and area 11. And I think one of the things we've been talking about as staff is that we probably need to revisit that. We actually pulled the zoning activity for those again. So I think we might be having a new city planning administrator or executive director. I think that would be something that we should discuss with him about where our next planning efforts are located. So we'll put that on the list. And now we've talked about needing to revisit that.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring that up again is just because, before I've known about this case for a while and I knew there would be opposition. I already know. And I think everybody on Mountain Creek knows. I think that definitely the chairman of our council, who's the district rep, knows firsthand exactly what it's going to be. But because we have no plan, because there is no recommendations on paper, developers are going to do what developers do, and they're going to try. And I just think that we just keep chasing our tail on this. And I'm pleading for even a micro target of this area if possible. Chairman, I appreciate you letting me go on my frustrations.
Appreciate the
Miss-
comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I finish just one last
Yes.
comment to that? I do think that you're right. You mentioned kind of a micro. It could be that it's not an area planning effort. It could be that it's a corridor, some sort of corridor planning effort. So we'll put that on the new ED to-do list for consideration and try to circle back in the next month or two.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for staff and the commission?
Brian, yeah, we're all kind of aware of this corridor for sure, and I suspect we're about to hear a lot about traffic. I noticed your comments didn't have anything to do with that. Has it been reviewed by the city for traffic yet, or you want to go ahead and?
Not yet. They probably, the applicant can probably speak more to where they are in an engineering study. It's not required as part of a zoning case.
Yep.
Will be during permitting.
Thank you.
So yeah, nothing that I know has been submitted
Yeah,
for
so
review.
that's a step that hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, we'll hear from the applicant. Yeah, for the record, if you'll state your name, please.
I heard from Mr. Schultz. One of the things I think that was noted in there was around 220 units, and we're looking at about 190 units. Now, in the grand scheme of things, 120, 220, 190, it's not that great of a difference, but we are willing to sacrifice a little bit of that. And part of that's because of topography issues that Commissioner Lefford brought up, with the 780 topo, being able to stay a little bit below that. We did have a pretty productive meeting on January the 6th, the community meeting. I believe that was the second meeting. First meeting had low attendance, had the second meeting. There was a lot of opposition, but we were able to do some, just kind of some vague polling in the beginning and determine that of about 35 people that showed up, about 60% had moved there within the last 5 years. And of that, 78% lives in multifamily already. That kind of surrounds that area. So it kind of gave us an idea of kind of what we were looking at and the general consensus of where everybody either lived and when they've moved there, which showed us that obviously Mountain Creek Road is a very popular place, which is good. People want to come to Chattanooga, right? Obviously with stipulations. So that there was some conditions that were proposed by RPA along with our company and the developer. And we totally accept those, some of those compromises. But I will add this, a lot of, if you look at the map, if you can see it above there, it kind of breaks everything down and it shows you what's multifamily, what schools, and then what projects are still somewhat available on that section of Mountain Creek Road. On either side of the blue right there, there's two small developable portions. And I say they're developable. They are challenging to develop just because of, again, you would get into the topo issues. So really, this is the last developable piece right there within that section. One thing our client is proposing is a little over 900 foot of center turn lane. That center turn lane would service two different, our development itself, the development across the street, which is the assisted living, and then the adjacent community. Our client is also proposing, obviously it would have to go through traffic, the Chattanooga Engineering Department, but to be able to connect for some connectivity is maybe an actual pedestrian crossing within that turning lane area somewhere mid-block. Now, obviously I know that's down the road, but that's something that the client is actually interested in, to be able to allow for some connectivity, because obviously we hear about traffic, hear about people trying to walk back and forth to the school. The vast majority of the sidewalk is on that opposite side of the street, which we could provide access to get there. So we have also engaged in a traffic engineer. Steve Meyer is going to do a traffic study. We were trying to do that right before the holidays, but then you have school that's out. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for us to do that when traffic counts are actually low. So we are engaging in that and moving forward with that process. I don't know if you have any questions for Steve, but traffic was the number one concern that came up during our public hearing, or during our community meeting, rather. It was more or less the traffic that has really spurred the issue. I don't believe it's a non-development issue. I believe it is more a traffic issue, or what they consider to be a traffic issue. So like I say, the proposal, we feel that not adding the additional 900 feet of turn lane would definitely be a benefit for this property. And it's not only going to develop, or it's not only going to be a great ability and enhancement to this property, but also a few of the surrounding properties as well. And then again, when we've had, 78% of the group that lives in multifamily around it, I don't think it's a question of whether it's multifamily or whether, we don't want apartments, do want apartments, but this area is already surrounded. The W, I think, I don't remember that year that was approved, but that was less than 1,000 feet down the road, and that was approved, I believe, by this body in City Council a few years back. And I don't feel like we're asking for an extraordinary measure. We're just asking for the R3 with conditions.
Let's hear from opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If you will, state your name for the record.
Yes, sir. I am Brooke Bradley King. I reside at the Oxford at 881 Wellstone Drive. My husband and I moved out to Mountain Creek from the North Shore to get away from loud noise, extremely heavy traffic, and dangerous opportunities to cross streets. We had hoped by making this move that we would be able to enjoy a very enjoyable retirement, peaceful time on Mountain Creek Road, only to discover that development is still continuing. As you have said earlier, the comprehensive plan, I don't believe that this development meets all the criteria for that, but the overlay plan is something that we would like to discuss further. It is important. It is something that you all have done for the North Shore and for Southside, downtown, and several other areas around the Chattanooga area. It does help us as a community to know what works. I just don't feel that this particular opportunity to develop 220 more units, or 190, I stand corrected, which can bring a minimum of 200 to maybe 300 cars added to other developments that are occurring on Morrison Springs Road. That is another 200 units. We don't know where everybody goes, obviously, but it does cause a lot of problems. There are residences that do have a hard time getting in and out of their property. What I would like to say at this point is there are two speakers behind me. Angela Amataji, I always get her name wrong. She's going to speak to quality of life. And Chris Dooley is going to talk to area planning and study and traffic. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope you will take us into consideration when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angela Amunatiki. I live at 1133 Mountain Creek Road, a mere one house away from the proposed development. I'm speaking on behalf of approximately 35 homeowners living directly on Mountain Creek Road. Mountain Creek Road already has a traffic problem. New developments are only compounding an existing issue. My neighbors and I face a daily hardship just getting in and out of our driveways. Over the past 10 plus years I have lived here, I have watched the problem grow continually worse with the addition of each new development. My family has lost a beloved pet right in front of our eyes due to the traffic on this road. I've been afraid to let my son play in our yard due to the fear of the traffic on this road. I learned firsthand, it only takes a split second. Last Friday, a mere 3 days ago, there was a 4-car pileup crash in front of my home, which I have pictures of if anybody's interested in. This occurred right before I needed to leave to pick up my son from school. Thankfully, the police officers on the scene was able to get me through the chaos of wrecker trucks and fire trucks and ambulances. Our ability to have quiet enjoyment is being taken away from us. The charm and character of Mountain Creek Road is being destroyed. I feel as if I am being chased from my home. I fear for the safety of my family and neighbors. I have great concern for the wildlife that will be displaced. I am also concerned about the impact another 12 acres of pavement will have on stormwater runoff into Mountain Creek, as well as road flooding, which is already a problem. And in fact, this morning, the in front of Mountain Creek Park is flooded. I'm also concerned about the impact on the aging infrastructure on Mountain Creek, to include the water mains. I see in no way how the addition of this I see in no way how this addition will make our area a better place to live. Mountain Creek Road does not need another apartment complex. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Dooley. I live at 729 Sheer Cove Road. I represent Horse Creek Farms Phase 2. That is 211 single-family dwellings about a mile away from the affected site. If you don't mind, those opposed to the apartment complex, could you please stand? Thank you very much. As you've already heard, one of the concerns is the congestion on Mountain Creek Road itself. There are several projects that are in the surrounding area that will affect that congestion. Another apartment complex on Morrison Springs Road, and another one that's near Horse Creek Farms of about 30 houses. We project, not knowing for sure, about 650 additional cars. If you go to the TDOT Transportation Data Management System, you find that a traffic counter that is near this project has about 10,945 cars that go past there near where this area is going to be. If you go a little bit further down near Mervs, you find that there are nearly 12,000 cars per day that go by there. So we're going to have an addition of about 6% on a road that the the city's traffic engineer says can only handle around 10,000. That infrastructure is going to be affected by this, and you've already heard that we have traffic troubles as well as safety issues with a school that's nearby. We're also concerned with the environment and how the diversion of the drain water will go. There is a bridge that is on Runyon Drive, which crosses Mountain Creek. That bridge has high water often, so that goes over the bridge. And the city has already seen that, and they have a project so they can work on Mountain Creek, so they can have a better understanding of how the wastewater is going to go. We want to make sure that there's a good environmental plan in place. We have people in Horse Creek Farms whose houses are near the creek and they get their foundations flooded. The most important thing that we see as a thing that we would like you to consider is this master land use plan that includes community input. It appears that there is no viable, up-to-date master overlay plan for this area. This affects the quality of life, the quiet enjoyment of Perkins property there, and taken as a singular project, there is this impact by the apartments that are being proposed. But if you put in the other projects that are there, that has a significant impact on the community itself. There needs to be a big overall plan to properly address these projects and additional futuristic planning that's in the area as well. Horse Creek Farms asked that a plan or a study be made about these zoning issues, and that a further development be studied to make sure it's an overall plan that suits the community itself and the people who already live there. We would like to have input into that plan as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Including the opposition speakers and opposition, everyone please stand that's in opposition. Okay, if you were at the last January 6th meeting with the applicant, remain standing. Everyone else can sit down. I'm not trying to confuse you. I just wanted to give a little perspective on how the meeting went. Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
I have one question.
Okay. Mr. Martin, and then
I'll yield to Commissioner Martin.
okay.
Mr. Dooley, question, you had made reference that the city engineer said that road was only for 10,000 was a count. Did you make that statement? Did I hear that right?
I did say that. That was information given to me by Will Farrell.
But that's not something from the city engineer. It's something you got from an HOA member. That's an understanding. And I don't know enough about it. I would defer to Councilman Ledford on the city council. Does the city have those kind of standards where they say you can only have so many cars?
We
I mean,
have
I've never heard that before. That's why I'm asking.
we have a capacity count that ideally, but CDOT did not weigh in on this case. Kind of wish they had weighed in on this case, and that would have given us some perspective on this. So one of the things to probably, if I may, Chairman, one of the things to consider is when we're at the planning commission, there are certain criteria that we use to make decisions. And then, as the chairman alluded to earlier, it splits off into either the county or the city on which basket. So what we're looking at today, a lot of the issues that I've heard, is a down the road process when it comes to permitting. So as a land use, there's is there precedence? Yes, it was set a long time ago. There is precedence, and the land use is and that's probably, Brian, you can nod or disagree, but that's where you came up with your recommendation. They don't use a traffic count. They don't use wear and tear on infrastructure anticipation. They look at the land use. So over years, and this is why I stress that plan, over years, the community, not all of you have lived there, but some of you have lived there a long time, and representation on the city council have allowed apartments to grow. So the precedence is already set for multifamily. Am I hitting on at least 7 of the 8 cylinders?
Yes, and things that we look at, does this zone at this location make sense from a planning
Right. Does
perspective?
it make sense? So as we move on to the next level at city council, that's where your representative engages. And I know that Chairman Henderson has been deeply engaged in this process. I know his feelings on it. But what I'm trying to, they have a hard time opening doors at the city. Anyway. Sorry, Chris. Welcome to you. So I just want folks here to understand that, whatever comes in the decision process today, that it does go on to city council, and that final decision will be laid out. So I just want to put some perspective on that. My question, though, if I may, Colonel, what will be accepted? I mean, if you were in a plan, if you were in a meeting today, the property is zoned R1. Brian, I don't know if you can give me any kind of number with that topo and the steep slopes involved, but
Yeah, it'd be hard.
it'd be difficult. But let's just, outside of R1, what would you find because they have a right to develop the property, what would you consider to be fair?
Could you step up to the mic, please?
If you don't mind.
Thank you.
And the reason I ask that question is because every time a project comes through on Mountain Creek, we go through this cycle again and again. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's a vicious cycle. And I would like to lay down some expectations as to what the community would accept. So under R1, we have single family homes. Has that been discussed? Other than, no, we don't want this. What is acceptable? Has that conversation occurred, sir?
Not really.
Okay.
I think you have a good group of folks here that if they had an opportunity to sit down with your planners, that they would be able to give input to you so that you would find from the majority of the folks there that they could tell you what they would like. I don't think that they like the apartments because of the strain on the infrastructure and the major changes for the environmental wastewater. And that's why we do planning, so that we can find out what the people would like and what makes sense. We at Horse Creek Farms seem to have a pretty nice little community over there. If they wanted to do a smaller one and use that land in that fashion, or maybe even put up townhomes, that might be a smaller footprint that would use the land in an acceptable way. Not as productive with money when you do that, and your investment doesn't return as quickly. So I would say, as our major thrust comes, getting the input from the community itself and getting understanding of what the people would like which you know that they don't like the apartments, that would be able to assist you, and you could put that into an overall plan that makes sense for that particular area.
So definitely, I think we all are in agreement that we need to have a plan and a vision and a discussion about what happens in the future on Mountain Creek Road. So let's talk about process. So if this were to pass today, it moves on to the city council.
Sure.
And I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm pretty sure I know what will happen. So my question is, and I don't know if just engineers, Kenny, you're representing today for ASA. Is there any room, Colonel, with your group to continue discussion on a possibility of what could be put there, or and I'm looking at both of you looking for a head nod or yes or no. Is there room for further discussion if a deferral was made, or that's the plan? And I see you deferring, Kenny, to your clients. Okay, so then I would ask Colonel, your group, Mountain Creek, Friends of Mountain Creek, I believe are involved in this as well. Would you be willing to sit down and try to come up with an alternate plan that you would accept? Because if let's say the card's on the table, if it goes to council and it's denied, 9 or 12, 9. So if it's denied at council, then it's 9 months before you can apply for any type of rezoning. If you open communications, then the options are still on the table. That's why I'm asking if there's room for conversation. And if you know me, I've had my voice on many conversations, many conversations on Mountain Creek. I'm always open, and I want people to sit down and talk and try to come to some sort of consensus if there's a glimmer of hope. And that's what I'm asking. Is there a glimmer of hope on this case?
From what my understanding of it is that in order to get the best profit out of that particular piece of land, you have to have apartments.
I understand, but I guess what I'm trying to go, and I apologize for stringing this out, but it's always easy to be against something.
Sure.
That's easy. We see that in everyday life. I'm looking for, is there room to be for something in that conversation?
I think we would I'm not the representative of the entire group. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. But
I'm
you're
just the
the
Horse
one
Creek
before
Farms
us.
guy.
You got the hot seat, Colonel.
Well, you know me, so I
Yes,
think that helps in the conversation. I think what I would like to see if I was being a part of this, to have an expert come in and tell me who does this development. We have somebody on Horse Creek Farms that does that. And so he could give us some alternatives that may be acceptable to the development company as well. But the profit margin isn't going to be as high. And
I know, but I'm not
be acceptable.
I'm not really interested in what people's profits are. I'm interested in the right use of the land and listening to both sides and finding something that works. People's profit is not a motivator for me in making any kind of decision. I think that would be wrong if we looked at it like that's the business model is irrelevant to me. What's relevant is we continuously fight these requests, and because we don't have the plan in place or we don't have an expectation, and we keep coming. I'm just trying to stop this cycle, and there has to be something that can be put there under state law or under zoning law. It's zoned R1, and it does have a use. And I guess if RTZ is one of the most popular zones we use in the city, townhomes, zero lot line. And I'm just trying to figure out if this is, are we at an impasse on this with the community, or if a deferral is actually beneficial at this time?
I wouldn't be able to really give you a definitive answer.
Okay.
I always like to talk with folks. That's my nature. But I think we have some pretty hard over people that do not wish to see that there's apartments there. They think it's too great a burden on the infrastructure, and you've heard the arguments that we've given.
Sure, understood. Okay.
I think it would be nice to have a plan, though, to be quite honest. I have a military background. I always like to have the commander's intent and tell me what I need to do, and I have the bookends on either side. I don't have those bookends here today, so it's hard for me to even be able to give you a plan and a direction forward.
Well, plan might take 6 to 8 months to a year to just to put in place with, I know with the workload of RPA, I'm not speaking for them, but I'm guessing I've done this for many years now. And I think I'm understanding that process. So, Chairman, I'm going to hit the pause button here and see if any other commissioners have a comment. And I just wanted to lay out some thoughts. On
Well, actually, we need to get the applicant back up here and let him have his 2 minutes to respond. And then we'll go right back to questions from the commission. Mr. Custer.
Thank you. And again, and I'll just reiterate that I don't believe we're looking for an unprecedented rezoning case here. It's already proven it's directly down the road, but obviously you all have been through this several times on Mountain Creek Road. You are becoming professionals of the Mountain Creek Road rezoning aspects. And I completely understand that. However, the RTZ was brought up a minute ago, and without getting a calculator and doing rough math based on the amount of acreage we have, somewhere between 75, 80 units. If we did 3 bedrooms, you're already above 240-ish per cars, perhaps. So there's, right now we're at 190 units. They're 1 to 2 bedroom. We go in and RTZ, we build the townhomes, build 3+ bedrooms, perhaps. It's going to have a greater population. Obviously, it's a little bit different use, but still within the multifamily. And obviously, traffic concerns is not something that it always gets brought up in zoning, no matter where you're at, whether you're East Ridge, Saudi, wherever, it always gets brought up. And that's why we were bringing Steve on. But with the client willing to put in, right at 1,000 foot of turn lane to help multiple developments in that area, make the turns that they need to turn. And then if city engineering would allow for, a lit pedestrian crossing somewhere mid-block to help people move. And I know that's not part of this case, just like a lot of the comments you heard is not part of what we're trying to do, but we are willing to work and move forward to make this a success. Obviously, this is an area people want to move from other areas of Chattanooga, or actually people come and transplant from somewhere else into Chattanooga. And it's always nice to welcome new residents into the city. So really, that's all I have. Steve's here. Like I said, I didn't really want to get into the traffic. I just wanted to basically explain some of the things we're willing to do. And that obviously would require us to take some of our land dedicated as right of way to make sure that we got enough room right there, which would be at nothing for the city. But, and then work on some planning moving forward through, TPO and stuff to see what other connectivity opportunities are there. There may or may be some discussions that I'm not even aware of that are going on today.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, you had a question?
So maybe Councilman playing a little bit of the devil's advocate here. I mean, one of the things that is really, I think is nice about this planning commission is that, we have elected officials that are here. We have appointees of elected officials. Then we have citizens that serve on this that have the ability to kind of look through this without a political lens too. And, ultimately this is a recommendation that's going to go to city council, and you guys are the politicians. We just, we just hear cases and look through them through that lens. I guess my comments on this case is I would struggle with anything but voting yes for this case, because the precedent's already set and the land use is already set on both sides of the road. And I'm very familiar with Mountain Creek Road. I've actually developed a site very close by and lived on Signal Mountain my entire life. And my grandparents lived in apartments on Mountain Creek Road when I was young. There's been multifamily on both sides of the road there. So in my mind, this is an easy yes from a planning commission standpoint to pass down the road to much more savvy political minded folks. And at the appropriate time, I would be willing to support a motion to approve.
Opposed? With no's, raise your hands.
Mr. Chairman, was that approved with the conditions,
That's approved with
those three conditions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Okay. And also, I don't want to assume anything. With those conditions, also the applicant's communication about the decel lane addition, that will also be a part of what we're approving.
It'll show on the site plan, but it's not, unless the plan commission wants to simply add this condition right now, it's not a condition.
Okay.
We want to make sure we get the study.
And the walkway.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
things.
Study and get those through Chattanooga too, to make sure that transportation is going to be in agreement with it.
And then Commissioner Ledford brought up the point of meeting between now and February 8th is when it goes to council.
Before we move on, to make clear, these are the three conditions that were approved, I believe, by Mr. Farmer's motion was no mass grading or clearing above the 780 topo line, maximum building height of 4 stories, and density limited 14 dwelling units per acre. Those other items with the walkway and decel lane, those are not conditions.
Okay.
Unless
Yeah,
that was
We
just-
can note there was discussion in the PC resolution about those items.
Yeah, yes, and code requires the sidewalks within the development itself.
Okay.
I believe anyway. So
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you to everybody on this case. Thank you for your time.
And this will go the next month. I think it's February 15th and 8th,
February 8th.
to City Council.
Hey, Brian.
We'll take about 60 seconds here and
Chairman, can I make a quick note?
Yes.
Those of you, Colonel, Steve, Mr. Hunt, those of you are in opposition. Although we hear this at our first reading, we will hear this case in Planning Committee the week before at our 3:30 agenda. So if you want to hear the real conversation in committee, be at that meeting. The first reading is the public hearing where you'll have an opportunity to voice your opposition. But if you want to hear conversation from the dais between council members, including Chairman Henderson, be a week before at our Planning and Zoning Committee meeting at our 3:30 agenda session. Thank you.
so while they're exiting, we're going to change gears and move on to new business, believe it or not. All that was old. The first case will be case 0001. Brian?
Yeah, this is case MR 2022-001, 1600 block of Vernon Terrace. Just abandoned a right of way. Staff recommendation just to approve. If you need me to go through the presentation, I'll be glad to go through that.
Any opposition? Have a first and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to 2022-002. Brian?
I do know we have opposition to this case.
Okay.
We did submit a deferral at that short.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I have first and a second to
Are
accept
you-
the 30-day deferral.
Are you the applicant? We need a name and
Yes, I am Steve Duggins, and I emailed earlier this morning asking for a 30-day referral.
Okay. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? Hands? Okay. What's the date of our next meeting so they are aware?
The next meeting date is February 14th, Monday, February 14th.
Same time.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I make a quick note? For those of you who came all the way down here from probably Udawald, Georgia, I see your head shaking because that's a long drive. I believe the deferral is probably requested due to a lot more homework and public discussion.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we thought that there was only one person who opposed, and we just learned that there were more, and so we want to have a dialogue.
So
Okay.
your attendance is very important in stirring and promoting that conversation. I do appreciate you coming down today, and by participating, you have made that happen.
Thank you.
It's kept back to us, and if nothing happens, then we're right back where we started. But since there was unknown opposition that popped up, the chance for conversation, I think, is what this body, have we voted yes?
Chairman.
And so we got the first, second,
Yeah.
and
So that's where
Can we do
that's what spurred the motion. And
Mr.
the
Chairman, I
request.
hear you.
okay, I know we got the first and the second. There's been a bit of conversation. I just want to make sure we did the roll call.
Can we,
Just-
just in case, could you
Yeah.
just see if there's a motion to approve on that? I mean, we have a motion, a second. Can we have a vote?
Okay,
the
let's do
30-day
that. All in
deferral.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So that will be, this case will be heard February 14th at 1 o'clock next month, the same meeting room.
Thank you.
Case 2022-003.
We did receive opposition to this. You should have in front of you all the opposition that we received via Google Sheet, but we did receive opposition to this one. I'm not sure if they're here. But case 2022-003 is a request to rezone from O1 office zone to C2 convenience commercial zone for proposed restaurant. You can see this property is zoned O1. To the north is R2 and O1 and C2 and R3. To the east of this side is R5 and R1. To the west is C2, and then further west beyond that C2 is R1. So it's a little bit of mixture of zones in this location. There's been some zoning history in this area as well. Case in 2005, we had a request to rezone from R1 and R5 to O1, which is actually this property itself that was approved with conditions. In 2008, you can see the red line going to the north of this site. That property is rezoned from R1 and R2 to R3 for proposed multifamily development. Next case is in 2018, immediately to the east of this site. That request was rezoned from R1 to C2. There was opposition at the time, and the applicant withdrew the request. 2003, directly across the street to the north and east of this site, there was a request to rezone from R2 to C2. Planning Commission denied the request to rezone C2, but recommended C5, and that was ultimately approved by City Council. In 2003, to the west of this site, there was a request to lift a condition on an existing R4 to allow a beauty salon. Staff recommended deny based on the East Brainerd corridor plan, so the case is withdrawn. In 2009, further to the west of this site, there was a request to rezone from R1 to C2 for a tree removal service. Staff recommended to approve C2, subject to office use only. Planning Commission agreed with staff recommendation and was ultimately approved by City Council. And then in 2012, the big C2 to the northwest of this site, that was rezoned from R1 and R2 to C2. Staff recommended to deny C2 and approve C5 because that C5 would be more in line with the land use plan recommendation. And then 2018, on the same side of this request, but to the west, there was a request to rezone from R1 to C2 for an animal rescue organization. Staff recommended to deny this request based on the recommendation of the East Brainerd Corridor Plan, which recommends office. Planning Commission recommended to approve, and City Council approved. I think this was conditioned to a cat clinic only. And then in 2018, to the west of this site, there was a request to rezone from R1 to C2 for proposed drive-through coffee shop. Staff recommended to deny this request, again, based on the East Brainerd Corridor Community Plan. City Council and Planning Commission both recommended to approve. So you can see we have multiple cases in this area, and staff has always, for the most part, followed the plan recommendations, trying to be consistent until a new plan is adopted, establishing new policy in this area. Oops. This is currently a vacant piece of property. There's a mixture of uses in this general vicinity. Across the road from this site, you have single family, multifamily, and then you have 3 homes that front East Brainerd. Those are actually used as offices. To the east of this site is vacant land. Further east, you have commercial shopping center, which is the Publix. And to the south, you have single family. To the southwest is single family detached. And then to the east is an office. I think it's a veterinary office. And then further west is single family. And then to the north, northwest of the site, there's single family and a church. This is a view of the site from East Brainerd. And you can see where the trees are. The building to the right is the existing office. This is the office use west of the site. The site's just to the left of that picture. This is a view of some of the offices south of the site across East Brainerd Road. This is a view looking along East Brainerd Road. The site's on the right-hand side. This is the view of East Brainerd Road and the Heaton Drive intersection. The property is right there where that dead end sign is. We mentioned a lot about the East Brainerd Corridor Community Plan. This plan was adopted in 2003. This is well before the road was widened. The plan, let's see, it's the plan for this. I think this is the wrong slide. The plan calls for office at this location. So staff recommends to deny this request based on the plan identified in the East Brainerd Corridor Community Plan, which recommends office uses for this location, and based on previous zoning case history. So staff recommends to deny this request.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Thank you, Chairman. Brian, the C2 request, it has no conditions, either self-imposed or placed.
No, the applicant did not submit any conditions, and staff recommend deny. So that's why the staff has no conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Applicant present. Excuse me, any other questions? Applicant present. For the record, please state your name.
Due to the English as a second language, I'm going to represent him. My name is Kyle Kim. I'm a Tennessee state licensed general contractor, and I will speak for him.
Yes, sir.
We read all this staff recommendation, and we believe that this neighborhood corridor community plan was set by 2003, and then way before the East Brainerd widened to the 4-lane or 5th lane. And by then, this lot was pretty big enough to do anything, but it's very small and not to have any kind of big restaurant or anything big. But Mr. Chung, the owner of this property, tried to have a little to-go food restaurant. And then this is a perfect lot for him to do that. And then this road has been really widened up and commercialized, and having a little to-go restaurant will be pretty good to the community for Mr. Chung. This is it.
Thank you. Any questions of applicant?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I'm the council representative for that district on the city.
Yes.
And we like to engage with the community as part of our process. No one contacted me from your organization. I understand there's might be a language barrier here, but there is a process that we like to follow. It's very important. The 2003 plan that you referenced is probably not going to be very far from the Area 10 plan that we're currently reviewing. That corridor is subjected to a lot of requests for C2, which is our commercial zone that, quite frankly, we're not interested in, especially a C2 with no conditions, because anything can be put there. You could have an adult store. You could have a gas station. There's a lot of things that happen under C2 that this stretch along the widened East Brainerd Road is not what the plan will reflect, and we're in the final stages of that. I say that because I drive by it every single day, and all 7 residents of Heaton Drive have reached out to me and begged and pleaded to not allow this. And to be fair to them, and because of the lack of communication, because of the lack of no community meeting or involvement on their part, because I see to staff, I think, made the right call. And I think in the future, we need to have that community input. We need to follow that process. And we need to engage the council representative, because at city council, I will make the call on the zoning at planning commission, make the motion. So unfortunately for this particular case, I agree with staff, and I will be making a recommendation to deny.
Can you explain what's the difference this one and then coffee shop across the street?
Sure. It's actually very easy. A tremendous amount of conversation with the community support, community engagement, conditions on C2 that limited the operation to exactly what it was. And that's critical. That's very critical. And also the Area 10 plan that we are currently working on had not really fully kicked off yet. So we were still relying heavily on the 2003 plan. But that Area 10 plan has had a lot of input, a lot of stakeholder input. And we now have a consensus, or at least a foundation for what we want to see through there. And that is, it's zoned exactly what it should be, office right now. Either that or some sort of residential component, R4, RTZ, something along those lines. A wide open C2 is just, I cannot stand on that. And I would have been glad to share that with you in an email or a phone call way back when, but no one reached out to me. I'm sorry.
Okay. We surely didn't know about, how to work this process.
Well,
Okay,
RPA tells you when you make application, you should reach out to the council representative, especially in District 4, because I make sure of that. And you hear those laughs because that's not new.
Okay, so we're gonna contact you and hear further from you.
Thank you. So, Chairman, with that, I make the motion to deny.
Any opposition here?
Oh, I did hear from opposition today. They had a COVID breakout amongst some of the neighbors, and they did reach out to me today on the phone and say they could not be here. And I thank them profusely for doing that.
I've got a question. I'll second it, but I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Ledford, would it be better? I'm just asking too, because I don't think they've really understood the process, or maybe they have and just whatever. Would it be better to defer it 60 days where you could have conversations about maybe doing something other than this? I'm with you on the denial. I get what you're saying about how it doesn't need to be commercial. I'm just asking, it seems to me like there's been a breakdown in communication, and if we deny it and then it gets denied at city council, then they can't do anything with this property for a while. I'm just asking the question of you. What are you? I'm with you.
I do not think I'm interested in C2.
Okay.
And I think that is, I think the plan is where we're leaning towards the future of that corridor,
Right.
which is a commuter corridor. I think that is the wrong idea.
So if this is denied, does that mean that they cannot bring another zoning in 9 months, or can they bring another zoning that would be something that would be acceptable?
They have 9 months
From city council action.
from city council action.
Right. So they have between planning commission and city council, they can choose to meet,
So-
they can choose to take a different action or ask council to do something different.
Or choose to move forward with that.
Yeah.
as
So, but
requested.
Commissioner Martin, I hear you loud and clear. If you were to make or willing to withdraw this motion, then that gives you you do not have to wait that long time frame to come back. Now,
Okay, Mr. Chung, before you make a conclusion, he recalls a conversation with somebody at the city. Staying as a O1, can he put mobile food truck in there and will not be permanently set in there? He will come like a lunchtime, have a food truck.
so similar to what we have on Shalford Road. We have one of those on Shalford Road right down from the Hamilton YMCA. My initial thought, and I'm going to search the code data banks real quick. In 01, that is not an allowed use, but staff.
Yeah, I don't see it as allowed use. There'd be codes enforcement making that call, but really the 01 is primarily offices, parks, laboratories, those type of uses. Now, being the mobile park, I have seen the one you're talking about, but I'm not sure what that is zoned. It may be zone C2 through
Yeah,
there. I'm
and
not sure.
I'm afraid there's a lot to hammer out here. A withdrawal, if we withdraw this case, you have time to drop back and punt, if that means anything, to reevaluate what your plans are if we did a withdrawal. Otherwise, we're at roughly a year before you can make application again. And I would be happy to entertain that withdrawal if that gave you time to
So
regroup.
do we have to make a decision?
I need to know right now.
And
Yes.
while he's thinking, Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, what I want to say to you, I'm just going to get cut to the chase. I think what is happening here is if you withdraw, there's opportunity for conversations to see about what could happen in the immediate future. If you don't withdraw and we deny it, this is tied up for 9 months. So it's really, you've got to make that decision. If you withdraw, you've got time. If you don't withdraw, you're denied and it's kind of frozen for 9 months. Is that
Mr. Chairman, if I clarify that, nine months again is from city council action.
Right.
from city
Not
council
just-
action?
So it has between planning commission and council still.
And they can also withdraw, correct me if I'm wrong, they're right? They're wrong, is that city council?
Because it'll move on.
That's
It'll move
right.
on
It
to
would
the
move
denial.
on if there's a recommendation to deny at planning commission, it will move on with a recommendation to council to deny. And at council, if it gets denied, is when you can't reapply for a period.
And there is already a first and a second to accept staff
Yes,
recommendations.
Mr. Chung wants to withdraw at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I rescind my motion for denial.
I second,
And I make the motion to withdraw.
and I second.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion of proper second. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed? Case 2022-0004, please.
In this case, staff had a recommendation to approve the condition. I have not heard from opposition, so if you want to hear a presentation, I'll be glad if there's opposition, but
Any opposition to the Highway 58 case? None, sir.
Wow. Really?
Mr. Chair, we can hear the case. You can ask the applicant if they understand the condition, which is subject to indoor and outdoor storage, offices, and single-family residential uses only.
it's on the screen.
Okay, let's hear from those. State your name, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Finch.
Okay, and are you aware of the staff recommendations?
Yes, sir. I read it in the notes. The one question that I have is, it is right now, the plan is just to be storage. However, there is talk in the future of having a small repair shop there for, any of the clients who have their products there and don't they have to take it off. Would that require?
Yes, if these conditions as written on the screen are adopted by the county commission on this property, if you, in the future you want to do a repair shop, you would have to come back through this process basically to amend this condition to add the repair function or ability on that property.
And there's no way to request that this time?
If the planning commission still chooses to add the condition, amend the condition, or approve it, they have that right to recommend on. Still ultimately county commission's decision. But
Sure.
Sure.
I would respectfully ask to have the ability to have a small repair shop there.
Can I get a point of clarification, Chairman?
Yes.
When you said repair shop, I thought I heard you say persons having products there could work on their items.
No, let me clarify.
Okay.
So it would be just a storage lot for boats, RVs.
Okay.
The repair shop would be
a business.
A business,
Okay.
or to bring in someone to work on their products or their RVs or boats while they're there.
Another quick question. Sorry, Chairman. Brian, does that make a difference if someone is brought in to work only on the items that are stored there versus open to the public? I feel you're
I don't,
in that.
my initial response is Yes, but I'm not the codes enforcement guy for the county.
And if I can clarify, I'd rather have it where if I want to have a business there to do it, I don't want to get into where I'm getting in any gray areas with anybody. I'd rather have something straightforward.
These could grow and grow into more.
Yeah, what is small?
You know, dear Lord, yeah, today, what's small? And this is a conversation that I've had with an individual who does, you know, general welding and repair. And I've talked to him about maybe us setting up a shop there for the people who store their products there. I don't know because I don't know, but I would be fine with limiting it to, you know, a 3-bay shop. You know, I'm not looking to grow something huge there. I don't want to get into a situation where I get crossways with what the intent is in the future, or have to come back and hang out with y'all more. Not that I don't love you all.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes. Let me ask you this. Have you talked with Commissioner Highlander about this?
I have not. No,
Okay.
sir.
Would it hurt your feelings too much if we put this off for 30 days? Because I'd like to get some clarity about what small is and about a business as far as, I mean, I hear what you're saying, what you want to do. I think it'd be helpful to talk to Commissioner Highlander, who is the county commissioner up there. I think it'd be helpful because you're talking about something besides storage to something that potentially has got a lot of noise. Maybe the neighbors think a little bit different than that than they do about storage. I think it would be helpful, at least from my point of view, Mr. Chairman, to have some clarity, because what we have in front of us on paper and what he's talking about are not necessarily the same. And I'm not sure exactly how they are interlinked. So I think the better thing to do would be to put it off and let him get with staff and figure that out, that language.
Mr. Chairman, we also need to look at the C2. I'm just quickly looking through this on the fly here.
Thank you.
I'm not sure a repair facility is going to be allowed in that zone without talking to codes enforcement in the county or building inspections, just to confirm, because I see retail sales, automobile service stations, automobile display rooms, parking lots, or storage garages. I'm not seeing anything about repair facilities in this zone. So I'll need to clarify.
And with that being said, I am fine moving forward with this and then coming back should that happen in the future. I'd hate to put off the zoning now for something that may or may not happen in the future when I do have immediate needs to do storage there now. So with that piece of information, I'm fine moving ahead to where we are.
Okay, Commissioner Hong.
No, just echoing what Commissioner Martin said. I think just knowing the intent, it sounded like you were going down another route with that. So I like the idea of you coming back with a clear plan or telling us you want to move forward. Either one.
I'm, you know, with what he said about not knowing if it's, I don't want to slow something down for something that may never happen in the future. So I'm fine with moving ahead. Then I'll come back and see you again. Should we change our mind? Should I decide to do something else with the property in the future?
Okay. Another comment, and I'm going to be looking for a motion to staff rep.
I'll make the motion and advice for the future. When you're on the very verge on the 1 yard line of getting an approval, don't change your request.
Yes, sir.
And I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
With that with conditions?
With the staff conditions, yes.
I just wanted to say that I love all these sports analogies. I get every one of them. And I thank my colleagues for their depth of understanding of culture.
Apparently, there's a big game tonight.
Big game tonight. Who you for?
Roll Tide.
Okay.
Roll Tide.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next case, 0006.
I believe we're at 0005, Mr. Chair, number 5 on the
I'm sorry,
agenda.
I got in a hurry.
2022-005 for 2901 and 2903 Dotson Avenue. Staff has a recommendation to approve. I will go through the presentation if there's opposition.
Is there opposition present? All those in favor? Opposed? No opposed. Moving to case 006. Say again. We can vote again. There was all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Case 0005 passes. We move to 006.
Okay, this is John Mazzy, 4721 Tessie Lane. Request to rezone from R2 to R3. Staff recommendation is to deny the R3 zone and approve R3 MD moderate density zone. We've not heard of there's opposition in this case.
Okay, have you spoken with the applicant about your recommendation?
No, we just sent him the staff recommendation, but
Okay.
the R3 MD allows him to do what his proposal is.
Applicant present. Did you come to my? Is the staff recommendation, I'm sorry, go ahead and state your name for the record.
John K. Mazzie, Mazzie.
Thank you. Are the staff recommendations acceptable to you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no opposition present. All those in favor? Opposed? Case passes. Thank you, sir. Case 0007.
Yes, this is David Fedati for John Wise Properties, the 1200 block of North Hochsclaw Avenue, to rezone from R4 special zone to C2 convenience commercial zone. Staff recommends to approve with 3 conditions. I'll go quickly to the conditions if you want me to, and not sure if we have opposition or not, but if we do, I'll go through the full presentation. But the 3 conditions are a 25-foot front building setback is required. That's a minimum and maximum. 1 curb cut on North Hochsclaw Avenue is permitted. And the following shall be prohibited: residential, office, retail sales and service establishments, residential, office, retail sales and service establishment, and wholesaling warehousing uses only. And then the following shall be prohibited: adult-oriented establishments, vehicle repair or service facilities, and car washes shall be prohibited. So it's approved subject to those 3 conditions.
Applicant present. Yes, sir.
Is that new? A 25-foot front setback is required, and that's the minimum and the maximum.
It is. It is new. It is
Can
new,
you
and it's an
explain
attempt.
that to me?
It is I'll try to answer best I can. This is an attempt. We have the area plan that recommends, what's the area recommendation? Mixed use corridor. Call somebody. This is the mixed use corridor place type. And within that place type, it talks about doing more of an urban type development, buildings built closer to the street. And so it does mention in the place type a 25-foot front setback. So staff recommended to put in that setback maximum of 25. That way they wouldn't do like a 30-foot or a 45-foot setback.
Mr. Farmer, we thought the UGC zone would be more appropriate, but it limits the wholesaling warehousing use to 5,000 square feet. So approving the C2 zone with the 25-foot setback was an intent to meet the plan recommendation, but still allow the use to go in.
And I guess the applicant's not here.
No.
That's unfortunate because I don't know what that does. I don't know what that does to their plan. I'll stop here. I've kind of made my point, but
yeah. Is there opposition? What I would be looking for would be a motion to accept staff recommendations. In this case, since the applicant's not here, we would go with approved with conditions and move forward. Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Chair, we'll make sure to follow up with the applicant, explain the discussion here, and that it's been moved forward.
Thank you. Okay, staff 0009.
Yes. Okay.
Can I just real quick? If we do have that condition in the future, because it really didn't read like that until you gave you gave that explanation.
I should have done that right.
I think if we're gonna have a condition that is a minimum and a maximum, we need to clearly state that in our staff report, because that could really have an effect on. I'm struggling with it.
Yeah, well, like Karen said too, we really thought the UGC zone would work here, but again, the UGC zone unfortunately has a 5,000 square foot maximum warehousing size, which would not work. So the C2 was our attempt through the setback and these other conditions to make it sort of comply with the place type designation.
We do have the opportunity between Planning Commission and Council to make sure the applicant has seen the condition, and then we have a discussion about how to apply the 25-foot. The intention was not to necessarily have just a blank facade of 25 feet with no variation to that. So we can have that discussion prior to council with the applicant. But it's trying to, we spent a lot of time on this case trying to figure out how to implement the plan as it's a transitioning corridor, but still allow that use to move forward.
Okay, case 0009.
Yes, this is AC Engineering, care of Alan Jones. It's 7440, 7444, 7446, and 7448 Pinewood Drive. This is a request to rezone from R1 to R3. Staff had a recommendation to deny the request from R3. I do believe, unless there's opposition, I'll go through the presentation, but the applicant is now wishes to change the request to RTZ based on a public, I guess there was a public meeting last week working with Councilman Ledford or Planning Commission Ledford. So they wish to change the request to RTZ. Is there opposition, President?
There shouldn't be. We hammered this out really well. This is a perfect example, if I may, Chairman, of the community and a developer working together hand in hand. Come up. Everyone left the meeting very happy. We do have some conditions that we will work on and impose at the council level that really didn't fall under the purview here. So with that, I move to approve RTZ.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Case 0014.
Okay, this is Tyrone Bird for 3838 and 3840 Hickson Pike. This is a request to rezone from R4 Special Zone to C2 Convenience Commercial Zone with conditions. I'll show those conditions, but be glad to go through the presentation if opposition is present. But the two conditions are the following. No grading, clearing, land disturbance, or building shall be beyond 115 feet from the front property line. Clearing, grading, land disturbance, and building shall only occur within 115 feet from the front property line along Hickson Pike, and limited to one curb cut on Hickson Pike. Additional curb cuts must be approved by the Chattanooga Division of Transportation. So he had approved with those two conditions.
Is the applicant present? Okay, I've got a question for you. Do you accept the approval with the conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No opposition present? Okay. You need to go ahead and present the case.
Sure.
Let's do that.
Go back.
Just stand by, sir.
Again, this is 2022-0014. This is a request to rezone along Hickson Pike from R4 Special Zone to C2 for auto service building. You can see this property is zoned R4. To the east is R4. To the south is R1. To the west, this side is R4. And then further west is R1. Directly across the street to the north on Hickson Pike is C2 and R1 and R3. There's been no recent zoning history for this piece of property. However, to the southwest of this site, there was a case in 2020 to rezone that R4 and R1 to C2 for used car lot. Staff recommended to approve with conditions, i.e. the clearing land disturbance and then one curb cut. Planning Commission recommended to approve with staff conditions. I believe this was once it got to City Council, opposition appeared at City Council, and ultimately this case was tabled by the City Council, so no action has been taken on the zoning case to the southwest. The closest C2 zone is across Hickson Pike, as you can see on the screen. This is a vacant piece of property. To the north across Hickson Pike is commercial. Also have multifamily apartments to the northwest. To the south, immediately abutting this site is single-family detached dwellings. Here's a view of the site from Hickson Pike. This is a view of the site's left-hand side looking south towards downtown on Hickson Pike. This is a view north on Hickson Pike. The site's just right behind that dump truck. This property is located in Hickson North River Community Plan, which is adopted in 2005. And the plan recommendation is medium business mix, which is primarily convenience commercial zone or C2, neighborhood commercial or C5, office 01, and residential or similar uses. The plan also had a goal of concentrating or clustering commercial development instead of strip development. So this request is compatible in part with adopted land use plan, as development formed to the north and west of the site is commercial. Approving C2 at this location will set the precedent for future requests for C2 on this side of Hickson Pike. Staff is supporting the rezoning to C2 with conditions to help balance what could be developed on the site currently under the R4 special zone while implementing the plan recommendation of medium business mix. Also, staff recommended condition to protect the steep slopes and the existing single-family attached residential neighborhood to the south of the site and for safe ingress and egress to the site. So again, staff recommended to approve with those two conditions that are on the screen.
Okay, sir. Okay, now the applicant can speak.
We have
Nothing
no
further.
problem with the recommendation as it stands.
Okay. Opposition? Please state your name for the record.
Mark Mullins.
Yes, sir.
I'm the president of the Fairfax Heights Neighborhood Association. And I would just like to echo Councilman Leffler's point. There's been no dialogue on this rezoning request. And we may not oppose. We don't know what's going to go in there. And maybe some dialogue would have, we wouldn't have this issue. So I'm just asking for a deferral and so the applicant can get with us and we discuss what's going to go there. Because C2 is pretty dangerous. And that's a dangerous location on Hickson Pike with hills and street exits onto Hickson Pike at that location.
Okay, I see that. But
Happy to dialogue with you after this meeting or whenever it's convenient.
Okay, we have neighborhood meetings and once every couple months, so anytime.
actually, sir, if you would come back up to the microphone and
Yes. Chairman, I have a quick question. Thank you, sir. Mr. Byrd, have you reached out to Councilwoman Hill
Yes, sir.
and you've had conversation?
I did. I met with her on the property and explained to her about the depth on paper of the lot versus where the grade began and how much of it was actually usable without moving and disturbing. And I assumed that was the recommendation with the 115.
Would it be too much to ask you to get with Mr. Wells and the Fairfax Neighborhood
I would be
Association and whoever wants to be involved in that conversation the next 30 days before we hear it at Planning and Zoning Committee?
Absolutely.
All right, that's on record. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, by Planning and Zoning Committee, you're talking about city council meeting, right? Well, I didn't, they'd come back here. Yeah, well, that's what I thought you meant. Yes.
Wait a minute, no, hold.
Hold.
What? I thought we just deferred.
There. It can
Mr.
go
Wells?
Either way, there's a motion on the floor.
Muller.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Muller.
Mr. Muller, sorry. What I asked the applicant and to get with is to meet in between now and which is another 30 days before we hear this at city council. This moves on to another. Okay, sir. Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? And who was the second? Okay. Case 0015.
This is for Brand Properties LLC, 1188, 1200, 1204, 1206, 1208, 1209, 1210, 1218, 1232, 1290, and 1300 Premier Drive, the city of Chattanooga. This is already zoned R4. This request is to lift the conditions that are on the property. So staff recommended to approve lifting the conditions from ordinance number 10610. If there's any opposition, I'll be glad to go through the cases and the ordinance.
Any opposition?
Mr. Chairman, I did speak with Dr. Burrs about this overarching project that's going on, and I do move to approve. She has no issues.
Have a first and second. All those in favor? Opposed? So ordered. Case 0016.
This is for Jay Floyd, 2701 Walker Road, city of Chattanooga. Again, this is another lift conditions. This property is zone C2 convenience commercial zone, proposed use of outpatient surgery office. This property is rezoned from R2 to C2 back in 2008 with 6 conditions. Those conditions are: number 1, self-service, mini warehouses or office uses, no access to Sonia Lane, type A landscaping along the 220-foot frontage shown on the site plan that's along Tyner Road, maintain 30-foot existing vegetation along Sonia Lane, attend the City of Chattanooga pre-submittal meeting, and number 6, install and maintain a 20-foot landscape buffer along the southeastern property line fronting I-75. Plans to be determined by the landscape coordinator. Again, a lot of these conditions, 1 through 6, came about because the proposed use was mini warehouses. That use is now changed to proposed medical office. So staff recommends to lift conditions 2 through 6 and amend condition number 1 to the following. To allow office uses and medical, including medical office only. So staff's recommending to amend condition number 1 to allow office uses, including medical office only, and to remove conditions 2 through 6.
Is the applicant present?
And we did get a letter in support of this.
Okay, great. Sir, state your name for the record.
Jay Floyd, regular
Are these conditions acceptable?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Move to approve.
I'm sorry. All those in favor? Thank you, sir. Case 0017.
Okay. This is Jerry Isaacson for MBI, 1508 and 1510 Old Ringo Road. This is a request to rezone from R2 residential zone to R4 special zone. Staff recommended to approve with condition. The condition is one condition. The condition is single family residence, multifamily residence, or nonprofit group home use only. And I'll be glad to go through the full presentation if there's opposition present.
All right. Opposition present.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Case 0010.
Yeah, this is MR 2022-010 for Ethan Collier Construction, 1500 block of South Watkins Street. This is a mandatory referral for a right-of-way closure. I'll go ahead and go through the full presentation because staff has a recommendation to deny. This is abandonment of a public right-of-way in the Milltown property. The purpose is to combine the property. You can see it's located in between South Wiley Street and South Watkins Street. It's highlighted on the screen in the yellow block. That's the requested right-of-way abandonment. This is a view of the site where the right-of-way exists. This is the rear of the site. You can see an old WPA ditch is located on this property, but the right-of-way is just to the left. This is looking south along South Wiley Street. This is looking north along South Wiley Street. This is the school that's across from the site. This is the site plan that was submitted with the request. You can see eventually this is going to be combined into 2 lots. The northeast corner, Milltown, which is lot 16. You can see the alley with a crosshatch that separates it from Milltown lot 15. And then also on Milltown lot 15, there's a 60-foot stream buffer along the WPA ditch I just showed a minute ago. We relied heavily on transportation comments on these right-of-way abandonments. So this comes from basic transportation and staff from RPA as a recommendation to deny. The request does not demonstrate a lack of future use in the right-of-way. The alleyway should be maintained in its entirety to help with the ongoing redevelopment of the Main Street corridor and to minimize future curb cuts along the state route as redevelopment occurs fronting Main Street. Note that there's also a building encroachment that is not owned by the applicant. Number 2, the request does not demonstrate a significant private interest that can only be achieved through an abandonment. Site plans indicate the right-of-way to be used for future parking and drive aisles for this Milltown phase, which can coexist within the city right-of-way without the city forfeiting its interest. Then from staff, request does not meet the City of Chattanooga right-of-way closure and abandonment policy, so staff and transportation staff both provide a recommendation to deny this request.
Staff, get present. State your name for the record.
I'm Donna Shepard with AD Engineering representing the applicant. As Mr. Schultz had indicated in his presentation, within this 10-foot right of way, there is a public sewer line. The building to the west, correct, is all owned by one parcel, even though it's showing the intermediate interior lot lines. That's all owned by one person. There is a building that takes up most of that property. It does encroach into the alley. For the future use and access of that property, that is the reason why we did not ask to abandon the full right-of-way. So you can see to the left-hand side, we did leave an opening for that property to access from the rear. We are proposing to add an entrance from South Watkins for lot 15 and lot 16. It will be a shared entrance. It will be wider than 10 feet. And so to minimize curb cuts along South Watkins, we have combined those. We do have a 60-foot stream buffer along the south side that does impact the amount of developable area for this property. And so while 5 feet doesn't seem like much, we are trying to push the parking as much as we can towards the alley that we're proposing to abandon so that we can minimize any grading along the stream buffer.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
I have a question. So the city will not allow any of that parking area to be in their alley?
I'm not aware of being able to park. I mean, I guess you could do a temp use, but we typically do not park within an alley. You can do back out parking into an alley and use it as your drive aisle, but 10 feet that's already encroached by an adjacent building is not wide enough to support for an alley or for backing out.
And there's no existing alley or pavement there at all right now?
Not really. It's not currently open. A portion of it off of South Wirely does have a little bit of pavement. There is an old building foundation that is still there. Before they cleaned up the property, it was old industrial piece of property with debris everywhere. So they've gone through the first phase of cleanup. We have spoken to Councilwoman Coonrod, and she is in support of this proposed closure.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Shepard, I heard staff say that the ownership on either side of the alley was different. What you're saying is the applicant owns both properties?
The applicant owns both properties that are outlined. So on the corner of Main and South Watkins, we do own, but the other part we do not. And okay. There is a current building that encroaches into the alley already.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Hanson. Donna, we don't maintain this alley in any way, right?
No.
Yeah.
We would propose to keep a sewer easement through there and not build any infrastructure on top of it. We would just like to have the ability to move our parking towards that.
I understand that one person in city government registered his views against this, but I don't know that speaks for other parts of city government on this. And I would move approval of the applicant's request.
All those in favor? Opposed? Applicant's request is approved. All right, case 0013.
Okay, this is 22-0013 for Ethan Collier Construction for 2318 East Main Street and 1506 South Liley Street. This is our first case. Even last year, I guess we amended the C3 to allow, basically put those what used to be conditions as standards in the C3 zone. And as part of that request, you can seek a deviation to those standards, if you will, like a variance, if you will. So this is the first one that Planning Commission and staff has been looking at. And I'll go straight to the deviation. The standards in the C3 zone are Section 5, landscape standards, subsection 2, surface parking lots shall be landscaped with a minimum of 1 class 1 shade tree for every 5 parking spaces. Where conflicts with overhead utility lines exist, class 2 shade trees may be used. So the applicant is asking for deviation to not have to comply with subsection 5.2, which is in the strike through there. The applicant did supply a narrative of why that deviation request should be reviewed and approved. Milltown Lot 15 and 16, which are the ones we just talked about for the alley, are small parcels and off-street parking is needed for the development. A new shared entrance will be created off of South Watkins of Milltown for lots 15 and 16. New streetscape and on-street parking will be created on East Main Street, South Watkins, and South Lyerly, where they currently do not exist. Parking will be located interior to the parcels. The parking lot screen will be provided for any surface parking lots visible from the public right-of-way. It goes on, we have more narrative here. At the end of the day, staff recommended to approve the deviation. So basically the deviation is the following: shall not apply. Section 38.234, subsection B, 5B2, for required surface parking lots to be landscaped with a minimum of 1 class 1 shade tree for every 5 parking spaces. Where conflicts with overhead utility lines exist, class 2 shade trees may be used. So staff is recommending to approve the deviation. This section would not apply to this development. We did note that to help encourage tree plantings downtown, maybe the applicant could provide additional trees elsewhere on the site, interior to the development. So that's just noted in the staff report as a future note. So staff recommends to approve the deviation as requested.
Mr. Chair, can I make a point that this is final action by the Planning Commission on this and will not move on to council?
Any opposition? Commissioner? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, we move into new business. Item number 15. A resolution to adopt the town of Walton 2021 land use plan.
Yeah, so we have representatives, I believe, from town of Walton here, and you have the applicant, or that you heard from lunch. She'll be here today to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this plan.
Mr. Chair, I believe from after the presentation at lunch, there was just a comment that perhaps the representative from Walton could come and speak to, I guess, just diversity of housing and equitable housing in the community. So perhaps the applicant could finish that up, or someone from Walton can speak to that. I think those were 2 items coming from Planning Commission.
All right.
Hi, I'm Angela Cassidy. I'm a citizen of the town of Walton. I'm on the Land Use Committee committee. So here to answer any questions you might have. And we have some other representatives also. Would you like them all to stand up to see who all is here?
Sure, you've sat here this long. Let's meet you. Great. Any questions from the commission?
And any citizens from Walton and who else I know?
So, yeah, they're all looking at me because I had some questions in our preliminary meeting.
We passed
if I can't answer them, I'm going to ask them to.
In looking at the plan, I couldn't help but notice and hearing this, I guess, from the charrettes, that a lot of the residents, and if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. Did not really embrace or inclusivity to a multitude of different types of residents, i.e. renters were frowned upon, is the way it was presented. Multi-family housing was restricted to very small footprints, so kind of catering to a certain demographic that was mentioned, maybe just empty nesters, people downsizing. I'm just curious as to if that conversation even occurred, because I'm not seeing it in the plan that was presented, and it was presented to us in about 10 minutes. So I want to give you an opportunity to kind of set the record straight, because it felt like this Walden plan was very structured for certain levels of income, certain types of housing. And to be honest with you, Ms. Cassidy, it bothered me.
Yeah, that would bother me too. Yeah. That
And-
would bother me too if that was my take. And I've been involved with this from the beginning of the planning process, and that was not my interpretation of it at all. If anything, it was to be more inclusive. The town of Walton is a very small town, up on Signal Mountain. And the town of Walden has just, elected a new mayor up there, trying to be more inclusive. We want to work with the town of Signal Mountain and with Hamilton County more than they have in the past. We wanted to do this plan also to help have more sensitive growth for the town in the years to come, and to be sensitive to the environment and the ecology of being up on a mountain, and the rock ledges and all that are up there also. If you'll notice, there's a town center area that is proposed, and this town is mostly focusing on the Taft Highway corridor. So it did not include, it included the town of Walden, but we really focused on the Taft corridor, which is more of the commercial higher density area. And if you'll notice in that town center area, it actually shows a potential for 3 stories, taking into consideration the elevation of the land. So you might have a 1 story that's a cliff, and then the 2nd story is at ground level, and the 3rd story be above ground level. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think you're getting into some real details on construction that I'm not really addressing.
Okay, well, why I'm doing that is to show that we wanted to be able to offer all types of housing within that big town center area. So there could be apartments in there, there could be townhouses in there, there could be single family dwellings in there. We want to be able to offer a multitude of housing options, as well as we'd like to see some commercial development, as long as it's sensitive to the area, in that area also.
So I think one of the biggest hangups for me right now, I guess, is that impression. And as the city's planning and zoning chairperson, I'm not only charged with looking out for opportunities for everyone. My first impression on this plan is that it kind of created a very strict framework for a certain type of resident. And I'm just telling you what was told to us. And,
Right.
And there was a lot of nodding heads around the table. So I was just wanted to give you an opportunity to. And then my next question would be to you is this is up for action today, and is this something that has to pass today? Is there some sort of time sensitivity that this has to pass, or there needs to be action taken on it today?
I think we would welcome the passage of it today. We would like to go ahead. The town plan has not been updated in a couple of decades. If you'll, I think you probably noticed that. And also the zoning ordinance has not been updated in a long time. And we would like to go ahead and clean up the zoning ordinance and update it some. So yes, we would love for that to pass. But if you've got a major issue, and if there's somebody else who could clarify better what I said.
And just understand, I don't. My opinion is mine and mine only, and it's based on my experience and my interpretation of what was presented to me today. And it will serve as a recommendation for the RPA moving forward. And I'm just wanted to express my concerns on what I didn't see, not so much as what I did see.
Could I, since I'm a committee member of that, I mean, we really did try to be inclusive. We had several public hearings and meetings, and
I'm sure everybody in the neighborhood was invited to the meetings. That's not. I think you're misunderstanding when I say inclusive.
Okay.
So, Chairman, I'll pause there. Thank you.
Commissioner Parker.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman, I think I live in the town of Signal, which is these are my neighbors. I know almost everyone here. Lived there for almost 50 years. And I hear you. I think maybe it could have been worded maybe a little bit different, but knowing the mountaintop like I do, we have an aging population. Guys like my father in his 70s who lived on acres, and when my mom died, he needed to move somewhere else. There were two options. There's a community called Westfield, and there's a community called Jamestown, which is really the only two, unless you're going to an Alexian type of facility. Those are the only two places, if you want to stay on the mountain, where you can have that type of aging in place kind of lifestyle. And I think the folks in Walton probably have this correct in the fact that there is just a massive amount of people that don't want to leave the mountain, but there is not a housing type for them. And when I read the plan, that's really what I saw outlined. And maybe it could have been worded a touch better, but I think that there is a large community on the mountain that wants to stay on the mountain, that needs additional housing types, that the Walden town folks have identified in a real positive way.
Commissioner Payne.
Yeah, in reading quickly through some of the documents, some of the concerns that I had, it depends on how you choose to use these documents going forward. In one part, it's talking about the interconnectivity between development. And if that's a mandate, it's a problem, because it's hard to, sometimes it's easy to say it and hard to do it. And a lot of times people, my experience is the public doesn't necessarily want that as much as maybe some of the officials want that. You tell me I'm going to have every neighborhood connected and coming through my cul-de-sac or whatever, people are not as apt to enjoy that as some people might like. So it depends on what your intent is, how the document is used. Is that a mandate that has to happen? Because many times you don't have access. I can't access another name. I don't own the property, So
Right.
I don't know what your intent is, but I'd be curious to know what it is.
A good example of that would be, and I guess you'd have to know Walden some, but we have this wonderful playground called the Pumpkin Patch, and it's next to the town hall. And the town actually owns land behind the Pumpkin Patch, which goes to a pretty unused road. And that road then connects on down to Anderson Pike. And then across Anderson Pike is McCoy Farms. So that's the type of connectivity we want to encourage for non-vehicular traffic, mostly. I've been amazed at how many people, are into hiking, into bicycling, into outdoor activities, and they want to see connectivity in non-automobile ways. So bikeways. But you're right. I mean, I know they talked to me personally. One couple was like, we don't want anybody connecting next to you. We've got a power line next to us. We don't want you to turn that into a bike path or something. And we're like, we can't, the power line owns that. So we tried to, calm their fears with that. So I totally understand what you're saying. Maybe that could have been worded a little bit better, but we want to be able to connect our communities with bike paths, with hiking trails, where the community wants it. We want to open up the door to saying, yes, we want to be inclusive in these ways, include you, and we hear you, but we definitely respect your privacy and your ownership of your property.
As I sit here and think about it, I think the councilman does have some really good points. And maybe by the time, if it does pass today, maybe by the time that you adopt this as a town, you could look at some inclusivity language to add to your plan.
Happy to do that.
Any other questions, Mr. Grant? Motion and second to approve.
Hang on, you got comments.
Discussion.
Just one. This is going to be approved today. That's pretty obvious, and I'm going to vote for it and pass it on to our very capable mayor and commission on Walden. But I will say, looking at this very recently for the first time, what this plan tells me is that I, an outsider who does not live on Walden, and for the record, everybody who knows me, I'm not leaving Main Street ever. But if I wanted to move to Walden, I wouldn't be able to do so. I wouldn't be welcome there because you have to be able to afford 2 acres on Signal Mountain for like 90% of the town of Walden to live there. You have to be able to order. That's what the councilman meant when he was talking about exclusivity, as in the act of actually excluding people. And then the only multifamily is in the town center, which is going to be the most expensive per square foot property in the town. So this document excludes people, and I'm not saying that's what the plan does. That's what this document gives off.
We will clarify that in the document because there are a lot of properties in Walden that are less than 2 acres. Now they are grandfathered in, but there are a lot of houses that are on small lots.
Well, that's my point though. If you already live there, you're included. If you don't, you're not.
Okay, but when the property sells, they're doing. But I understand what you're saying. We will take that into consideration and do our best to rectify that.
Thank
you.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Not. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Show of hands on those, please. Okay, the plan passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any staff updates?
We don't have any, but I believe Commissioner Ledford has something he
Yes,
wishes
Councilman
to.
Ledford has some comments.
Chairman, I'm going to try to make this real brief because I have some supporting documents that I'd like to present to this Planning Commission and RPA. Basically, what I would like to ask this commission to consider today is reviewing some changes or text amendments to UGC and possibly RTZ as we move through the zoning assessment in the city. As we have been shown, UGC and RTZ are the most popular rezoning tools that we have in our toolbox. And as we consider the urban overlay, we are finding and bringing to our attention through engineers and developers deficiencies I think we need to address. And I think this body could address and make a recommendation to move on to city council. So what I'm going to, not going to go through an hour presentation. I'm going to formulate my email. I'm going to send it to Commission and RPA. But what I would like to ask this body if they would consider is having RPA look into this and reporting back to us next month with basically an opinion. And that's really all I wanted to do today. But I am prepared to send these documents this week. And I would make that in a form of a motion and a second. All right, there you go.
Motion.
No. New rules at council. We can second our own motions. Yeah.
All those in favor?
I heard a second.
Okay, we'll report back at either lunch or at the meeting, depending on what that proposed changes are.
Oh, I'm making specific recommendations. Yes, sir. I'll outline them so that very, very clear. But I appreciate that.
And
Opposed? Okay, pass.
All right.
Mr. Chair, it sounds like that Councilman Ledford is going to send those to the Planning Commission. If planning commissioners have comments, if they could respond to staff solely, so that not discuss amongst yourselves, but we're happy if anyone, it sounds like there's going to be specific changes. If everyone has comments on those, we'd be happy to take those and include those for consideration also.
Good. Thank you.
And since Councilman Ledford brought it up, at the luncheon next month, we'll be hearing from Camiros a virtual presentation on the zoning code assessment. So that will be next month's lunch presentation. So just so we have enough time, I guess we'll try to get started on that like 12:10ish. So if everyone, I'll send out a reminder. And then also hopefully by next month, our new ED administrator will be on board too.
Let's see, public comments. Yes, sir.
My name is Anthony Wheeler. I live at 1831 Lewis Mine Road on Signal Mountain. I've been intimately involved with the planning proposal that was just approved, and I want to alert the commission that I've spent 2 years working with TDAC and have come away with a statement from them that says that they acknowledge that coal is a problem. They acknowledge that we have 20 million tons of coal in the mountain, but they have no precedent to regulate it. This presents a critical problem in the fact that we have 103 coal fires in the United States at the moment that cannot be suppressed. We have 100 openings on the mountain that expose the coal at periodic times. My property has 3 different mines dumping coal at every heavy storm. So pursuing this, the legislature has now said they will never create any regulation over coal to set an environmental precedent. This brings the onus of this problem to your doorstep and to Walden's doorstep. Walden's done an amazing job in this document, and I appreciate what they've pointed out and the regulations they're trying to impose. But the problem of coal will not go away. And the problems that the conditions on Signal Mountain present in terms of sewage and stormwater control are being actively opposed by the building home builders and are working with the legislature to reduce the control of TDAC over these issues. TDAC is in a very poor position at the present time, and the problems that you've seen already arise in court and litigation will continue unless effective zoning is done over these issues. Thank you for your time and consideration. You should know that the various environmental groups in the state will continue to pursue this issue at the state legislature level, but the onus and responsibilities and liabilities will come back to this council. And I think the Mayor Coppinger has alerted you to other problems in other parts of the county. They're only 10 times worse on Signal Mountain. So please consider this document and every inception of proposals that come related to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone, any other comments? No, we have to approve the minutes first. Then you can do that. All in favor? Wait a minute. No, actually, I haven't asked opposed yet on that other motion. Y'all got to slow down a little bit. Opposed? No one's opposed. Okay. I think you have a motion.
I have a motion.
You beat him to it. Okay.
I have a motion to adjourn.
And he's the second. All in favor? Get up and leave.
Get up and leave. Good job.
Yes, ma'am. Well, the commission did their job. I don't remember there being so many people talk before, which I think is good.
This supply chain stuff is real as it gets. It's killing me.